All right, I'm here with Josh, founder of the Cubby. Josh, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Well, first of all, congrats on the recent acquisition. But before we dive into everything, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself to people that may not know you?
Of course. I'm Josh Kim, founder and CEO of the Cubby. I guess ex-founder and CEO of the Cubby now. 23-year-old Boston native, finishing up school right now, actually up in Maine, at Colby College, and finishing up my last semester this upcoming fall. And yeah, happy to be here. Big fan of Acquire, big fan of you and your work that you do all over. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate that. Well, congrats on everything. So you're in college building businesses and selling them. I was doing that. That's awesome. Start early.
Yeah. It's a rite of passage, right? It's a rite of passage.
So you're in school. What got you interested in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's actually a question I come back to quite often, where I'm like, what got me going? What got me started? And
you got the itch.
Yeah, it's an itch, but I'd also be lying if I said in this podcast and in other conversations I've had, like entrepreneurship will come up quite often as like the term and the umbrella of what our conversations are around. But I really didn't think of what I was doing in the beginning as entrepreneurship or being an entrepreneur. There was definitely an itch. There was definitely like a hunger within me, but that was really one of curiosity and excitement. Essentially, I had not tried to do anything business related or entrepreneurial during my time growing up. And I'm not the classic like lemonade stand kid in middle school or whatever. Like I didn't have any of those kind of like early childhood stories. It was really when I came to Colby College. I was really hungry for something outside the classroom. And I just attended school in Cambridge, Mass in high school. And it was great, but it was also really intense and really, really structured, really rigid. And I didn't really have that much autonomy and free will to kind of explore my own paths. And so Colby allowed me to really open up kind of my own exploration. And it was during my freshman winter going into the spring when I actually really made a really faded connection with a Colby alum, a college alum from my college. And he basically took me under his wing, and he was a founder of his own company at the time. And I basically just learned everything and anything under him and got started through that.
Right on. I have kind of a similar, path. I started a company in college, got a great mentor.
Right.
So I think the lesson is, the sooner you start, because I always say the people who know the most about winning know the most about losing. So start early. So if you lose or make mistakes, which all entrepreneurs do, it's early and you can, learn from them.
I'm curious, actually quickly, if you don't mind me interjecting, on that note, was that something that you kind of like fell into, that like relationship and the world of building things, or was that something that you always knew you wanted to go into?
I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was that weird kid who was like, everyone's like, I want to be a quarterback of this football. I was like, I want to be CEO of a company.
Really?
Yeah, it was early for me. I was definitely like commercialized lemonade stands.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I just love building stuff.
Right.
I just love business from an early age and just kind of never look back.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, and the only reason why I ask is like, if 4 years ago someone was to say like, I'd be on this podcast with Andrew Gazdecki talking about starting and selling a business, a startup, it basically never crossed my mind. It wasn't a part of my identity at the time. And I think that the maker side of me and the builder side of me, I think there's a creative side to everyone. And I think that that's something that I just tapped into, and college is the perfect place to do that. So yeah,
I couldn't agree more. When I went to college, I didn't go to any. I graduated with a 2.07, and you can't get a degree below 2.0.
Yeah.
And I've confirmed with Chico State, which is the Harvard of the West, which I got into with a 2.2 GPA in high school. Wow. I've never been interested in class or anything like that. But I have the record for lowest GPA. And I'm going to go speak at their school.
That's a badge of honor right there. I get a sign. I get a sign and may market that anywhere you can. That's fun.
I actually have a sweater that I think is really funny. It says Harvard Law and then just kidding underneath.
Just kidding.
And then I was wearing it at the gym one time, and this guy who definitely went to Harvard Law came up to me and started asking me these like Harvard questions, like, "Did you have it?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, look at the sweater." And he got super pissed and walked away.
He's like, "You're gonna hear from my lawyers. You're gonna hear from me.
I'm gonna sue you." No.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into the Cubby. How did you think of the product or the idea? What made you want to start it? Tell me about the beginning.
So as I said a little bit earlier, like, it wasn't something that like I set a goal and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go from point A to point B. It was really just I was curious and I was really wanting to learn kind of things that weren't, like we discussed inside the classroom, things that weren't like something I wanted to learn through experience. Didn't want to kind of lose myself in textbooks. And this college alum that I referred to earlier, I learned basically like kind of like, I guess I was like a all hands intern for him, without the real official title or anything, for like 3 months, learned everything, anything I could under him, helped him run his business, helped fill holes and, learn to wear all these different hats. And then 3 months go by and I basically like, at this point, like I'm putting in like 3 times as much effort into the startup scene than I am in my classes. So, the scale definitely tips towards start tipping. And I noticed that. And I hadn't felt this excited about any body of work that I'd accomplished prior to that. I reached this point where I was happy to help him, but I realized I wasn't learning anything new. And I brought this up to this mentor of mine, and he basically said, he agreed. And he was like, the next thing is, if you want to really learn how to build something, helping is one thing, but the next step is to build your own thing. And the reason why I say, I'm not saying I fell into this, but for me, it truly came out of learning. I wanted to just, learn something that I couldn't, and I wasn't fulfilled by what I was learning at the time in school. And so that led to the Cubby 1.0, I guess we'll call it. At the time, the name that I came up with was Sklaza. SKLAZA. And that word alone is a trip down memory lane, but it stood for School Plaza. It was supposed to be this creative, funky word, and nobody ended up understanding what it meant, and nobody could even pronounce it. It was great. It was very German for some reason and didn't really work, but it was the name we came up with, and the domain was available, which is the most important thing. And so Sklaza came up when I started to like look around my surroundings and think about the different problems that were going around in my life. And that was the biggest piece of advice I got, the best piece of advice I got to this day. When I started to look at a product to build or a business to grow, the number one question that my mentor shared with me and that I came back to over and over again, it was, what is a problem I can solve? And what is the biggest problem in my life? It wasn't, what is your idea? What is the business you want to grow? How do you want to make money? It's, what is a problem that you can tangibly make an impact on and do your part to solve? And at the time, I just finished my first semester in college, and I basically had all these textbooks. As a college student, you probably know. I don't know, actually, maybe you didn't have textbooks if you weren't the biggest student.
I had a couple.
Yeah, you probably had a couple. You probably squeezed by one a semester and hung on to the minimum requirement. But textbooks are standard. In college. I just finished my first semester and I even took an extra class to like want to learn in the fall, and nothing, came out of it. So I had all these extra textbooks lying around. And at the end of the semester, I was like, okay, I just spent like $500+ on these textbooks, bought them all from the college bookstore. Surely they'll take them back. Or there's probably some, used buyback program or whatever, logically, that's what I thought. Came back to the bookstore after the semester ended, after finals period, and lugged my textbooks over. I plopped them on the desk and was like, hey guys, like bought these textbooks from you guys 3 months ago. Would love to sell them back. These are brand new. I haven't touched them. Like, there's no writing in them. And they were like, oh, sorry, no can do. We have a strict policy where we can't buy back textbooks. This is honestly the classic college student story. And I think it was honestly just a rite of passage for someone like me as a first year, not knowing what I didn't know. And college students get screwed by textbooks. That's, I guess, now the story that I come to learn. And as I was leaving the bookstore, the employee there, kind of shouted from the back and was like, hey, actually, there's a third-party company who's come onto campus and they're buying back textbooks. They're currently in the campus center. Go there and you'll hopefully get some luck. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, justice is finally served. I get to go and sell my textbooks to a different party. Go to the campus center, and sure enough, there are two, older ladies with a white table, propped up table, and they're taking textbooks. There's a line of students coming in trying to sell their textbooks back. And I get in line, and it's my turn. I give my textbooks to them, and I still remember the exact amount of how much they offered for like my 7 or 8 textbooks I'd given. They gave me a receipt and they were like, all right, here's $13.61 for 7 or 8 textbooks that were all like hardcover, like, you know, you got like your linear algebra to your English lit to whatever, like all these fat textbooks. And I was like, dude, $13.61. I like, yeah. So I still have the receipt. Because I was like, that receipt single-handedly fueled my first year or two of like really gritty work of the Cubby. And
that's I remember yeah, I would buy them used off friends because number one, I didn't have the money to buy them new, and then two, used is always cheaper than new.
Right.
So you I love this because I always like saying, you know, fall in love with the problem, not your idea. And you seem like you came across a problem you personally experienced, and it sounded like it hit you. Like
right.
That moment, you're like $13 for all these books.
Yeah. So it was a big moment.
So based on that, what happened next? You go and, you know, you fire up the Cubby. How did you get your first customers? How did you market it? How did you get it off the ground initially?
Yeah. So the first iteration of the Cubby 1.0, was a product that would directly solve this problem that I was experiencing with the textbook buyback. So I essentially, built a marketplace for textbooks, specifically at the beginning, just textbooks exclusively. And we very quickly opened that up to all things college items. So we had like a fun acronym, IONS, IONS, so for items only needed by students. So like, what's an ION? A mini fridge. Only college students use that. Textbooks, same thing. And like obviously there's certain things that like everyone uses, like desks and chairs, and but the thing is like nobody, like how many people use wall tapestries and posters and just like college items, anything in your dorm room essentially we sold on the Cubby. And so that was the product that we were aiming for once we started building. At that time it was just me and this advisor. So I was running, taking charge, running ship, and then the college alum was more of like an advisory role. And the first real step after all the customer interviews and like the 3 months of just doing research, market research and whatnot, the first real iteration of the product was I still laugh to this day. It was a Google spreadsheet, and it was a sheet that listed all these different items that I had gathered through my customer interviews, asking students, what do you have that you don't need right now that you want to sell? And then the other question I would ask is, is there anything that you need right now as a college student? And I put down a list on the, the supply side and the demand side, and wrote down all the things that each student mentioned and had all the student names matched up to them. And then I became the marketplace. So I listed like 450, 500 students. And that's actually a quarter of campus. I go to a very small school, 2,000 person school, 2,200 person school. I like really capitalized on the student body. And so I was just this first year with this head cut off, running around, asking questions, going up to seniors, going to strangers, going to people at parties. Hey man, like great music. Like, hey, what do you have to sell? Like, it was a whole freshman spring, first year spring was a blast. And so, yeah, I became the marketplace, and for like 2 months, just became the chatbot. I was just, hey, Francis, like you mentioned that you want to buy this and you need this, you need laundry detergent. And here's Melissa, who's got like 5 bags of laundry detergent that her parents bought her because they, are overprotective and want to make sure she has clean clothes. And she has 3 bags that she doesn't need. So here, and then I would connect the 2 people, and then, we all had college emails. And so I could just search them up and easily find their contact information and just connect the 2 of them together. So it was that was the first real prototype, but it was, like you said, as manual as it got.
That is awesome. I love how, because, I think a big mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make is they build out like the product way too much before launching, when you could do all this manual stuff. And really what you did is you essentially validated that, there's a market need here.
Right.
And then you started capitalizing on it.
Right.
So I guess my next question would be, when did you know, like you really kind of had product market fit? Like when did it feel like, oh, this is like, it kind of sounds like maybe what you just described was the moment, but was there another moment where, things started just kind of moving and you were like, dang, there's something here?
So if I were to fast forward a little bit, because obviously the first stage it feels like a blur, but it was like a year of the first half of the year was like doing research and customer interviews. And I'm also a big believer in customer interviews and user, I think everyone really is, but taking serious time to make sure that the problem that you have is also real. So I would say that was the first step to really reaching product market fit, is like problem market fit. Not that I just made that up, but like coming up with a problem that really is big enough and is as serious to have market fit potential in the future. And so that was the first half of the year. Second half of the year, this Google spreadsheet solution that I had, obviously, once I started learning different things and, realizing what the core necessities were to solve this problem, we built out the first website iteration. And honestly, I got the first inkling of like, wow, you have something here. When the janky, can I curse on this podcast? I can curse, right?
Fuck it.
Yeah, the janky ass website that we had was it was shutting down because there was too many users. And like, I think that's the great problem to have. And I think you might, I've like seen this in, different people's stories, but like it was a website that really shouldn't have worked, and it worked. It was functional. Yeah, it was, you could click buttons and it would bring you to new pages. Sure. But it was such a janky, it was like early, it looked like it was like prehistoric. And it was mostly because I, at the time, was a non-technical founder. I wasn't, coding up things on my own. And so I had received the help of a good friend of mine, and who was actually a friend and also an alum of the college. And he built out this iteration. I, again, had no money. I wasn't raising, or I wasn't like, going to investors right away. And so I think I self-invested like $5,000 at the time. And that was almost all the money I had, but I like truly believed in it. And also I only invested when I reached a point where I was like, all right, there is definitely something here. And I was already gaining profit at that point without even having an actual product, through the Google spreadsheet. Like I was making money, and I was actually implementing manual transaction fees just to see. I played around with transaction fees to a point where I would get 50% transaction fee. And it was crazy because like these students wouldn't care. And so I realized, okay, I can make money on this. This can be sustainable. The $5,000 is truly an investment. It's not just something I'm just, spending away to build tech. And yeah, I'd say near the end, like the 9-month mark, almost at 9 month to a year time period, we launched the website version of the product, and the marketplace started really taking off. Again, even in the janky form that it was.
I think what's so awesome about what your story, and I wholeheartedly believe this, is sales and marketing is so much more important than product, in my opinion. Because you could have built the best product in the world, but if it wasn't for your hustling and talking to people, like follow me for more obvious startup advice. Like,
I mean, you do it better than anyone I know. So
just the basics, like just talk to customers, it's okay to have, a janky product. If it works, it works. And then take that and invest the profits to make it better. So
agreed.
That's a great story of just starting with something super manual. You validated it, and then you focus on sales and marketing, and then you finally built out what I would assume is, kind of a product you were a little more proud to release.
Yeah, 100%.
So now I want to fast forward to the acquisition. Is that cool?
Yeah. Real quickly, because I there is definitely a big step to the story, and then we can discuss is, so we actually pivoted the Cubby, and I keep saying the Cubby 1.0 because the current stage, and we'll call it the 2.0 version, is actually not a marketplace for college student items. During COVID, yeah. So this is actually the chapter that really kicked us into product market fit, and then to what I think is like real success and real stickiness to the marketplace, where basically, and I can kind of cut to the chase. The marketplace we were running was great. There was a lot of buzz, but it was very specific in its seasonality. The marketplace was as hot as fire during the first 2 weeks of the semester, during the first 2 weeks of the year. It was also hot the last 2 weeks of the year. First 2 weeks of the year, everyone was on the marketplace to buy things, to secure things for their market, for their bedroom, for their dorm, for their whatever, for their frat house, for whatever, their apartment. At the end of the year, everyone was on the marketplace trying to sell their stuff because they were all going away, going back home, going wherever. And as much as I did all the customer interviews and research, I didn't take the seasonality into account as much as I should have. And I realized that there were, for the 2-3 months in between semesters, it was crickets. There was very little activity because, I think the moment I realized was when I, as a college student, and also the founder of my own company, wasn't even going on my own website to go and look to things to buy or sell, because I was content as a college student, unless you're a impulse buyer or, you're a hoarder. Like you don't have extra things and to sell or, copious amounts of things to constantly buy. And that's when we decided to pivot. And it actually coincided with COVID. And COVID was the big thing as well, where the remote component of school really allowed me to grow the company and the team. And so for the first year and a half, I was working on the Cubby solo operator, advisors and network here and there, but worked on it by myself. And then when COVID hit, it allowed the opportunity for me to work with other college students and other people from across the US and across the world, frankly. And that allowed me to really envision the product bigger than I wanted it to be. And that's when we opened up the marketplace to the Cubby that it is today, which is an art marketplace for college students. And there's a whole backstory there. I don't want to necessarily, I don't know if we're tight on time, but
no, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
So okay. I mean, seasonality when it comes to acquisitions is terrible. It literally is. If a buyer looks at that, unless the product, is typically at scale, but I mean, if you're selling like an e-commerce store with fireworks or something like that, I don't even think you could do that.
Sure.
They say, fireworks, 90% of the sales on like July 4th to 3rd or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's going to scare away a lot of buyers. So the fact that you noticed that and changed it,
right.
I want to hear more about it.
I mean, so that wasn't even something that I wasn't even thinking about buyers at that point. I was a year and a half into the venture, selling it wasn't even on my mind. I was just like, I want to build this thing as far as I can. And, a business that runs 3 months in the year, 2 months in the year, in my case, the first 2 weeks of the semester, last 2 weeks of the semester, we're on we have the fall and spring semester. So that's, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 months. It's like, 2 months in a year is not really, I mean, I guess it's a business, but it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't, I wasn't being able to invest profits and, make the business and venture bigger as big as I wanted it to be. And so this is where things got really fun and interesting, where by this point we were on 5 college campuses all around New England, 2 in Maine and 3 in Boston, 3 in Massachusetts. And
this sounds like the Facebook story. You got like 2 twins.
I'm trying to
twins who are like,
hey, the Facebook story as possible.
That was my idea. Do you have 2 twins suing you right now?
Yeah. I'll get a cease and desist letter or something after this podcast. No,
the Winklevoss.
Exactly. Just anonymous New York address, just come to this place. No, none of that. I guess so. I guess it was college. And then it was like, one campus to the next. But really for me, it was just like, I want to build a strong foundation. That was the idea behind it all. It wasn't to like necessarily, make this an exclusive thing, but the Cubby, the big value prop for the Cubby and the users of the Cubby were that they were exclusive for college students. So they're exclusive for college students who want to buy and sell, there was Facebook Marketplace, there's Amazon, there's all these other places, but they're competing with, the rest of the world. And so to be able to keep a community within a specific demographic of people who need the same things was important to us. And so
I'm looking at this now. This is cool. Would you describe this maybe as like, I don't know, like Etsy for college students?
Yeah, that's the exact description I had for the new user. So let me explain kind of what brought us. Yeah. What do you think?
Go ahead.
And I can see your eyes.
I'm looking. I see Freddie Mercury painting. It looks pretty good.
There's some quality. I was the product aside, I was just proud of the artwork that was there.
There's some like cool graffiti stuff. Like this is cool.
Yeah, for the person. Yeah, I feel bad for the listener who's not even who doesn't even know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'll go into the pivot. So this is COVID now. This is fall of 2020. I'm back at school. Miraculously, our school opens back up and we're actually like in person, but also hybrid. So I'm on campus, but classes are kind of remote. And it was around this time and I started bringing people onto the team now at this point, because as I mentioned, COVID allowed for remote work, for more collaboration, and honestly, just frankly speaking, just teammates that were better than me. Building a team that was better than me, building a team that was more skilled and had specific backgrounds that I didn't necessarily have in my upbringing, technical, design, marketing, sales, you name it. And so by that point, we had a team around 5 during fall of 2020, fall of COVID. And we launched the college marketplace, the college item marketplace. And the same thing happened as the semester prior. First month, came in, it was, business was booming. We have double digit transactions every day, almost sometimes triple digit transactions a day. There were a lot of transactions and a lot of business that we were doing on the platform. Second month rolls around, October rolls around. It's a sharp decline, fall off a cliff. It's crickets, it's quiet. And this is where the community that we have built and the conversations that I had as a early founder, the customer interviews in the early stages that I had really came back to reward me, I guess, reward the company. Basically, there was really a gift that was given to us during that period where the customers I had conversations with, and by that time our whole team was, getting to know different customers from different colleges and whatnot. They started approaching us and coming to us, asking us for certain things in the product. And one of the biggest customer feedback that we got from our product was whether or not we could open up as the Cubby a category for student-made artwork. So to give you more context, these are the students that are reaching out to us. We're all like studio art majors, woodworking majors. They're mechanical engineers, people who actually create things and make things for their major, for their work. And a lot of these art majors were coming to school, building these things and then leaving them in the dust. And there was no place to put them. As much as they appreciate their art, they're churning out pieces day in, day out. And so we have painters, we have sculptures, we have woodworking, we have apparel on the website. We have everything on the marketplace. And the best thing about all this was truly so customer and user driven. And I can't even take credit for the real iteration of the Cubby today. As I said earlier, I'm a big believer in problems, a big believer that every great product starts from a great problem. And the art part of things wasn't a problem I experienced. I wasn't a studio art major myself. I wouldn't consider myself a great artist, although I like to, doodle and sketch here and there. And so when these users started coming to us, our team came together and we're like, all right, this is very doable. Open up a category, do like a 1-2 week marketing campaign. And so we opened it up. We opened up late October at that time, second month of the school year, and we called it Student Made. And that little category it took 5 minutes to implement on the pre-existing product that we had, blew up. And when I say blow up, I don't mean it just like from like a customer and user standpoint. We caught wind of so many different institutions and like press that I never even imagined. It wasn't even on my radar, and that wasn't even the goal of opening up that category. But immediately, one of the schools that we were live at, Boston College, reached out to us like 2 weeks in to this launch, and they were like, "Hey guys, like we've been hearing all this buzz from our BC students about this art marketplace that you guys have built, and this is the art department now reaching out, and they're like, because of COVID, we can't do an in-person exhibition, and they can't do a gallery, end of the semester gallery, end of the year gallery that we always do. We were wondering if you guys can help us host it on your platform, and we'll find some partnership or whatever, and find ways to compensate and figure that out." And I was like, dude, compensation aside, of course. Like we were trying to solve the problem to the best of our ability. And at the time, the problem was college student artists and college student creatives don't have a place to sell their work. But really the deeper problem that I had realized was it is very difficult to make a transition from a college student creative to a full-time creative, and to make that your actual job and to get paid. That was the biggest thing. We wanted college student creatives to get paid. And so that was the new problem that I had found on my hands. And it was honestly bigger and a problem that was more fun for me to work on as a creative and maker myself. And so again, like Boston College reached out. We had different, we had an art institution in Maine called Mecca reached out to us, Maine College of Art. And then schools started randomly reaching out to us as well. A lot of California schools, actually. I know you're in California now, like, USC, UCLA, a bunch of UC schools reached out to us, just like catching wind of this art marketplace. And because we were so in with the college world that, you look up college art on Google and we came up, and their SEO started really blowing up. And so again, it was a mix of everything: COVID, our team, customer interviews, but they all blended in so perfectly at the right time, and allowed us to really make this pivot during that fall. And so we started slowly but surely transitioning. And by January of 2021, after that fall semester, we had fully pivoted to an art marketplace.
That is an awesome story. I'm looking at it now. I'm seeing a Kanye West picture.
Yeah, there's an artist I want to shout out. Check out Sam Oach. You've probably seen him. He's on the homepage a good amount. His there's a lot of like black, kind of like digital art representation, and he's my favorite artist. And definitely one of the many talented artists on the Cubby, of course.
Yeah. Oh, these are cool. Like
his work is incredible.
He's got a Scarface one. He's got a guy with a bunch of to-do list things on.
He's awesome. He's an old classmate of mine. And what's actually great is, he would have definitely become a full-time artist without me or the Cubby's help. But now he's living in Chicago, and he opened up his first gallery just a few months ago. And obviously that wasn't.
But look at the impact you made. I'm reading his bio, self-taught digital illustrator from Nigeria, based in the United States. I'm currently a junior at Cubby College, where he takes studio art. So all of this art gave him an outlet to make money when you're in college, when everyone's broke. So I'm looking at these paintings, which are $35.
Right.
But to a college student, that's like 3.5 million.
100%.
Like I love this story. Like it just I think it's just a good testament of, number one, listen to customers. Sometimes they have the best ideas,
right?
And then just sticking with it. And sometimes, there's that saying, like, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you'll get a haircut. Where sometimes, like, something will just go right. That's why I'm a big proponent of just, staying in the game and just continuing to, iterate and, try stuff that, is new, it doesn't work, grab it, try something else, and eventually something's gonna land. And it sounds like you found it. So congrats, man.
Yeah.
All right, now I want to move.
Now let's go. Yeah. Right. So now the fun part. I mean, it was fun the whole way through, but now the real exciting stuff comes together. So So again, 1.5 years in, pivoted our marketplace. And I guess this quick asides to add to this that did help with the acquisition was we opened up the marketplace to not just college students, but now the everyday citizen, everyone. Basically, we opened up the marketplace to the public. The college, so it's still exclusive for selling art and selling pieces. So that's exclusive to college students, but now the public can buy and purchase these pieces. And so the one liner that we had for the Cubby now was the Cubby art. The Cubby is the first art marketplace that gives 100% of the fee. This is definitely not the one liner. This is whatever. So basically, we gave 100% of the fee to the college student and allowed them to showcase and sell their work to the public. And that slowly but surely started getting the interest of different people in the public. And that's actually where the acquisition talks got really interesting, where because again, another college student wasn't going to buy the Cubby. They were still figuring out their next meal, their next ramen, or whatever. We really start to open up these conversations with acquisition and gather interest from bigger organizations when we opened up the marketplace to the general public. And so by this point, year 2 transitioned to year 3, and now fall of 2021 comes around, 2021, and the Cubby is going as well as it could. It's going smoothly, and we at that point we had some big press go out. We were shouted on the New York Times. We were in NBC. I did like a few video interviews with different groups, and so I started getting interest. The Cubby started getting interest, and or groups reached out to us, and it was exciting to see. But at that point, I wasn't really ready. I wasn't really looking to sell, and our team was still pushing ahead with the product. But the biggest thing that was frustrating for me was there were a lot of like one-off conversations, and a lot of these conversations were just hey, like LinkedIn pings, like hey, like saw you in this press, would love to chat, have an interest in potentially purchasing, or would love to talk about acquisition. Or other group would be like, hey, like we saw you from this, and we'd love to potentially partner, like let's chat. And like the conversations are great, but I think out of like the 30, 40 we might have had, like 95% of them led to nothing. Like just zero, just like one conversation, and I never got to see them again. And that's when I started realizing the harsh reality of acquisition. It was like, okay, if this is the path I'm going to go down, I'm going to have to it's going to be a full-time job, A. Like that's going to be my main focus at that point. And then B, I'm going to have to find a way to truly organize and facilitate these conversations, because right now it's just like flies hitting a wall and then just dying. Like there's nothing is stuck, nothing is sticking, nothing is, moving on to the next step. And so then by the end of year 3, so March of 22 was when I really, sat down and was like, all right, I think acquisition makes sense now at the stage of life that I was in, and the stage of life that the Cubby was in. At the time I had taken a year off. I took a gap year from college to go full time on the Cubby. So 2 years of the Cubby in college. And then the third year was when I was taking my gap year. And that's when I found out about Acquire. That's when I found out about a close advisor of mine, I was like basically venting my frustrations, and I was like, hey, I'm looking to sell the Cubby, partner the Cubby, just basically hand off the Cubby to a large organization, larger group. And I'm just having these conversations that are just leading me nowhere. And I'm basically just going in circles. And I didn't really expect anything from him, but he was like, hey, like, I just checked this thing out on Twitter recently, Acquire by a guy named Andrew, and you should check it out. And I was like, I don't even use Twitter that much, but I was like, all right, screw it, let's check it out. Twitter always has some gold mines, gold gems hidden in the dirt. And so checked it out. And I think at the time, users still micro Acquire, but now users obviously, Acquire, which is more fitting. But I went on the platform and instantly, just from like a product standpoint, fell in love with it. Like design, user journey, just the flow and understanding as an intuitive individual, like it just made perfect sense. I got signed up, took less than 5 minutes, went the whole process, put up my listing and did all the descriptions and, different requirements that you guys ask for to sell the company. And it was honestly so smooth. I forgot about it because it took like half an hour. I submitted everything and then I just left it because it said like, okay, the listing is going to, take a few days to like get approved. So I kind of forgot about it. I was like, all right, that's cool. Like I have that somewhere and it's floating and hopefully someone catches interest and can reach out to me. And then I got an email, said the listing was approved, and I got like more access to the marketplace at that point because I could check out different things. And then I kind of just stuck around. And I think the real thing that got me sticking was the first day we were approved, I had like 10 to 12 different people reach out like immediately. And it was so exciting to see because I was like, I had, like I said earlier, I had different people reaching out through different means prior, but the amount of volume and also the way that it was organized within my Acquire inbox was so clean that like there was no, I don't know, like chaos and kind of frustrations that came with the process. And so even if someone like, hit me up and then never responded again, it's like, okay, archive, on to the next. And I think you guys allowed me to do that. And the acquisition journey got much more exciting.
Nice. Well, I'm glad it all worked out. I guess my question now is, what did you do to, ensure that you picked the right buyer? Like you have, so many buyers reaching out, you built a great company. How did you land on the buyer that eventually acquired your company?
Yeah. I'll shout out the buyer if that's cool. Quinn's a great guy. Quinn reached out. At this point, to be fair, at that point, I've been on Acquire for a little bit now. Not because I was frustrated, but more because I was honestly just very patient. I would say that's the first thing was to find the right buyer. I had to be really patient. And that wasn't easy. I thought, I didn't know what the timeline would look like. I did all my research, I've done all my reading, and people can get acquired in 2 weeks. People can get acquired in 2 years.
I answered that question for someone today. They were like, what's the average time to sell your company? And I always say, that's like asking me how long does it take to sell a car? Like, is it like a beat up Camry or is it like a low price Ferrari? Like it just depends. Like
exactly. Hey, and sometimes the Camry gets sold faster than the Ferrari. It's like, there's really no real rhyme or reason.
Yeah. Did you know, fun fact, I can't remember who told me this, but it was someone that does a lot of acquisitions. Investor, like 98% of acquisitions are below $80 million. You want to know the reason for that?
Why?
Well, the higher price of any asset, the smaller your buyer pool. So you can apply it to like homes too. So like a $10 million home, if you're a realtor trying to sell a $10 or $20 million home, you probably just have a list of like 50 billionaires, like who's going to buy that? So once you get past like the 100 billion and billions and stuff like that
makes perfect sense.
Your acquisition
target market. Yeah.
If you're a startup with $1 billion valuation right now, you got like 5 people that can buy you. And then you have to kind of hit the jackpot in terms of timing.
Oh my God.
And then you have to hit the jackpot in terms of their ability to acquire. For example, if Salesforce is one of the 5, if they just made $1 billion acquisition, they're probably not going to do another one like soon.
Right.
And then
the stars need to align.
Yeah. So, interesting tidbit there.
Interesting.
So you landed on a fantastic buyer.
Yeah.
Any bumps? Like I guess
Yeah. Oh.
I would love to hear.
Were there bumps, Andrew? Come on. Were there bumps? I mean, you've been around long enough I don't even want to hear. You probably heard like horror stories. I mean, that's probably why you built Acquire to avoid those. But yeah, of course Of course there are bumps, that's,
The
I'm not here to make.
the biggest horror story that I hear pretty often, and we do our best at Acquire to avoid this, but off market deals. So off market deals, private equity firm hits you up and they're like, hey, we love your business. Here's an LOI, but they don't know enough about it to really make a common decision. So then they lock you up in an exclusive period, and then you go through intense due diligence, and then they find one thing they don't like, and they're like, oh, so they're like, there's a specific, there's a lot of groups like that, just to be aware of them. Basically sending you an LOI just to kind of get more information, and maybe some of those deals will close, but generally not all of them. And so advice that I get founders on Acquire is I'm not sure if you got this, but it's something that we've been doing recently is we also have like a support team and a sales team now.
Oh yeah, I love them.
Oh, you chatted with them? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I chatted with someone from the support team briefly, but yeah, I did notice that you guys like opened up more just general support. So I was like, all right.
You can call us. We'll put together a full acquisition strategy. We have this like new hidden course that basically, how would I broker a deal? Because we were brokering deals for a little bit. But the one thing about the LOI is I always recommend a pre LOI call. We're just like, hey, Josh, like I have other offers on the table. Like, can you tell me like how would this deal fall through? Can you tell me how you're going to finance this? Just again, I know we've talked about it. Can you just give me some assurance in terms of where this deal might fall out? Because if you sign an LOI and then you think the deal's over, it's not.
You're in it for the long haul.
And then second piece of advice there. Sorry to keep interrupting you. I gotta get this out.
No, of course.
When you sign an LOI, don't stop selling. Do not stop selling the business. Like you're gonna have all the stuff that the buyer wants. But what you should also always do is record like a loom on how marketing works, how sales works, how showcase me, those cool paintings, get me excited. So when I find something I don't like, you just gave me all this other stuff that gets me excited and opportunities, growth opportunities and that sort of stuff, upside in the business. So just a little tidbit there.
I hear you loud and clear. I think, and these are also learnings for me too. Like I, like I said, it was like around 6 months it took me on Acquire. And the first 2 months, I would say, I was lucky enough not to run into those, whatever, big bully giant companies or whatever that try to like, bully you into an LOI and stuff like that. But I definitely did have like a bunch of buyers who were like, whether it was an LOI or just like real interest, they would just, give me a lot of lip service. Like we're getting the papers together. Like this is exactly what we're looking for. Like we're going to go through due diligence the next week, like blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, great. And so for the first 2 months, whenever I talked to a buyer, like I'd wait. I would just be like, okay, like, so-and-so from San Francisco, so-and-so from New York, they're doing this due diligence. They're, really, we send them like supplemental materials, pitch decks, information they request. And, we were obviously, pretty secure about what we shared and what we didn't share, but it's like 2 weeks would fly by just waiting on them. And, it's like, and then you have all these other people like messaging you on, Acquire or just, wherever, and they're messaging you about interest. And you're like, for the first 2 months, I would actually say like, hey, like, we have someone we're like close to finalizing, thinking in my head, oh, we're close to finalizing. But that wasn't, at least in this case, maybe it is in some cases, but in my cases, in the beginning, especially, they didn't lead to much, and they were just a waste of time when I could be busy, selling.
Yeah. So that's a great way to kind of weed out buyers is making them perform. So, an easy way is on the first call, just say, hey, we had a great conversation. Like, it sounds like you're fairly interested. Would you be open to having another conversation next week? And then give some homework in the middle where, send me over a list of additional questions that, maybe are a little more pointed. Right. Because on the first call, I always recommend just building goodwill, because acquisitions rarely close if you hate each other.
It's a relationship building.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So on the first call, just get to know each other. Tell me the story of your business, Josh. Like, who are you? Why are you looking to sell? I'm Andrew. Here's how I operate. And then we make commitments. So as a seller, what I'd recommend is like, Josh, great chatting hey, those questions and like what questions you have in addition, I'll work with my team to get those over to you. Then let's have a call, same time next week. And you just, I call it Bam Fam, book a meeting from a meeting where you just take the calendar invite and you just move it over. But the point I'm trying to make here is if you see any indication of a buyer doing, and this also works for, it's a two-way street. We recommend this to buyers too.
Right.
If there's any indication of someone doing something that they said they were going to do but didn't, that's kind of a precursor into what due diligence is going to be like. And, so you want people that are prompt and do what they say. Otherwise, you're going to sign an LOI and then they're going to tell you it's going to close, but they've kind of meetings and, so watch out for that. So
it's really like, it's like looking for like a romantic, it's like looking for a dating partner, it's like you're dating, you're like speed dating. And it's like the biggest thing in any relationship is communication, right? So if they can't communicate properly, or if they're not following through with what they're saying, I think that definitely is maybe not a red flag from the get-go, but definitely like an orange flag of sorts.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, hey, I know we're getting to the hour here, but I've really enjoyed this chat, Josh. This is awesome. I guess to just kind of close it up, if you had to just give, 3 pieces of advice to someone looking to sell a startup, what are the 3 biggest learnings that you had going through this process?
I like simple pieces of advice. So I'm gonna try to keep this as concise as possible.
The basics, man. The basics you got to have the basics.
And okay, I'm going to try to do this in order, but it might not be. Okay, number 1, know what you want. When I say know what you want, I mean, be clear with what you're looking for and think and write. I would highly recommend writing down specifically what are non-negotiables, what are nice to haves, and what are bonuses. So, for example, non-negotiable. They must continue running the business that you're running. They must continue the product that you're running. Nice to have, a certain, you're looking for like, 6 figures, a certain amount, you want 200, 300, whatever, have a number. If it's a nice to have is, we would do this number. And then a nice to have is if it's more than that. A bonus is like if they allow you to like stick around, for, as a, an advisor, or let you like hang around the company after, you get acquired. So again, these are kind of like the things that were on my mind, but I would say like, know what you want and really define that. And I didn't do that for the first 2 months of my journey. So know what you want. And the conversations just get so much faster and so much more efficient after that. The second thing, I said this before, be patient. It really is the long game. And even if you get acquired in a month, you have to approach it like the long game, because if you're quick to act on every conversation, every excitement that comes your way, like it's just going to be, it's like running a marathon where you're sprinting to like every single corner until you get to the finish line. And it's like, and I've gotten really into running recently. I've last like year or two. So now like I'm thinking a lot about this. Like there's a lot of like analogies of running that somehow make sense in life. And it's like, you could do that and you'll still get to the finish line. But if you're patient, you can just be so much more calm and composed and just keep a steady pace, not burn out in the process, and just sustainably get to the end of acquisition. So be patient. Like you said, the analogy used of barbershop, if you stick around long enough, it'll come together. And then the last thing, be friends with the person who's going to acquire you, with the group that's going to acquire you, whoever your main correspondence is. I don't know. This is probably not the textbook of piece of advice that one would get for getting acquired. You said it earlier, like building a relationship is important, but like become friends, at least friendly. Like, I think most people are, nice people. And so, if you're trying to get something from someone, you're probably gonna be nice, but I don't think it hurts to be friends. The individual I spoke with whose group acquired the Cubby, like Quinn was my main correspondent. And like, I'm friends with Quinn now. Like I'm 23. He's like 20, he's got like 20 years on me. He's awesome. He also runs, he also like exercises and works out. So we talk about like exercise and like our next like, race that we have, or, we talk about like things that aren't just like the work, aren't just the company, aren't just the acquisition, because it's a long journey. You start a conversation, with interest, and it takes like 2 months. I mean, it took Quinn and I like a month or 2 months to like from start to finish to, signing off the paper. So I think if you can be friends with the person that you're with, and, like, thanks to that, like now I'm still sticking around the Cubby, helping out as like an advisor of sorts, providing input when need be. And, I get to go to bed at night and know that the person that is building out the legacy that I started, they get to, there's someone I trust, but someone I actually enjoy being with. And so I think, be friends. the person you're.
That's good advice. You know, Warren Buffett has a saying: you can't do a good deal with a bad person. So
Yeah.
I personally have never seen it happen. If the two people are screaming at each other and just can't, like one person misses a meeting and then the other person fires out an email saying like, dude, what? Like if you don't feel that sort of like trust and just kind of this person's going to be easy to work with because you have due diligence, you have transfer, you have negotiations with terms. And if it feels like you're just something's off, trust your gut and go with the different. So that's really great advice. All right, Josh. Well, we got to wrap this one up. I really enjoyed this podcast with you. Congrats on everything, man. I feel like you and the way that you think in terms of building startups, you started with a manual Excel spreadsheet. You listened to customers, you pivoted into a new product based on customer input. You found a mentor advisor as well, which is huge, like especially when you're in college. So when you build a multi-million-dollar business, will you please come back to Acquire and we can do another podcast?
Of course. Yeah, no, Acquire is, I'll be sticking around. I'm not going anywhere with Acquire, and there's some cool products on there too. So who knows? Maybe I'll be on the flip side of things, or I'm exploring the investing world now, and I've joined a group, an angel investing group in Portland, Maine, as well as like a program manager and just helping out here and there. So yeah, I think there's another venture waiting for me in the near future, and I am cooking something up right now, but I'll definitely be sticking around Acquire. And
do you want to share what you're cooking up, or you say that?
Yeah, it's definitely a little more. It's definitely a little bit more in stealth right now, but it's actually less of a tech product and more of a podcast. So actually, this is a great little segue. This, we're doing a podcast right now, but yeah, I'm exploring like a venture in an audio format, in a podcast format. And so, yeah, I'm still building up the foundation, which I think is the most important stage of any venture. But yeah, I should, by the fall, it's July now. So by the fall, I should have something public, and yeah, excited to just start another adventure, another journey. And I'll always be building things and thinking about the next thing to make. So.
You got the itch, man. You're not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere anymore. So
right on. Well, Josh, I'm rooting for you. If people want to find you online, just learn more about your story, where can they find you?
So my website, joshjkim.com, is probably the best place to just find what I'm working on.
You got a personal website? Damn, dude. And you're in college, you're going places.
Yeah. The world we live in today, man, you have to, I guess, have some digital thing. So yeah, no, I built that out recently as well, after the Cubby. And yeah, so joshjkim.com, obviously, LinkedIn, I guess you find me on Instagram if you want to see my adventures, and, I love traveling. So, but no, yeah, joshjkim.com is probably the best place. And yeah, I guess, hit me up. I'm always happy to chat about, what you're making. And also I'm big on just finding more teammates. I think that's one thing. It's a whole other podcast. But yeah, I'm just always happy to meet new potential teammates. And just for me, any teammate is someone who's working on their own thing or buzzing about the next idea. So yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, this was awesome, Josh. Congrats again on the acquisition, and let's get you back on here again when you got another one.
100%. All right, man. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy the weekend. We'll chat soon. All right.
You too. All right. Cheers, man.
Take it easy.